In 1837, Daniel Webster wrote, "I apprehend no danger to our country from a foreign foe. Our destruction, should it come at all, will be from another quarter. From the inattention of the people to the concerns of their government. From their carelessness and negligence, I must confess I do apprehend some danger." I've been thinking about that statement lately. I also came across a video that I had forgotten about that's part of an interview with Soviet defector Yuri Bezmanov. Mr. Bezmanov was a former KGB agent who defected to Canada in 1970. In 1984, he gave an interview with G Edward Griffin, where he exposed a long-term Soviet plan to defeat America not by force of arms, but through psychological warfare. You may be asking, what does a 20th century defector have to do with a 19th century lawyer and statesman, and how could it possibly be relevant to our situation here in the 2020s? I came to find out both of these men were quite prescient in their warnings to the American people. So we'll look at that next on the Constitution Study.
Neighbors and have a few good friends. Every day we're everyday Americans. Oh, every day we're everyday Americans.
Hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study, where we read and study the Constitution. Teach a rising generation, be free. I'm glad you could join me. If you're watching this video, please subscribe to the channel. Help support the work that we're doing here. Help other people find the Constitution Study as well. If you're listening or you'd like to donate to the cause, please head to the website, constitutionstudy.com. You can also find out about the Patriots program. You can ask a question or sign up for the mailing list. All of these help get this information out. And this, ladies and gentlemen, well, this is going to be a very interesting episode because I'm combining two apparently disparate statements into something that you'll find is quite prescient for what we're dealing with today. So let's take a look at Daniel Webster and Yuri Bezmanov and what can we learn from these two men that's important for us right here in 2023. As Daniel Webster warned, America is not being destroyed from without, but from within. Our apathy about what the federal government does, our carelessness in dealing with bad actors that inevitably enter government service, and our negligent attitude when the Constitution is violated has certainly led the United States to the brink of collapse. Mr. Webster went on to warn us, "I fear that they may place too implicit a confidence in their public servants and fail properly to scrutinize their conduct, that in this way they may be made the dupes of designing men, become the instruments of their own undoing." Just think of the things the American people have placed blind confidence in those in governments for. Retirement, healthcare, food and drug safety, education, and energy, just to name a few. Yet no matter how often government fails, the answer always seems to be a call to give them more. The collapse of our republic should be laid not at the feet of some nameless, faceless government actor, but on the feet of the American people who have been duped by their false promises. However, there's one area where Mr. Webster appeared to have gotten things wrong, because there was a danger from a foreign foe. They used our carelessness and neglect to not only accelerate our destruction, but also to supplant the American way with a collectivist and communist agenda. As a former KGB officer, Mr. Bezmanov was aware of many of the methods used by that organization to subvert the United States. In his 1984 interview with Mr. Griffin, he detailed some of these techniques, starting with the ideological subversion.
Ideological subversion is the process which is legitimate, overt, and open. You can see it with your own eyes. All you have to do, all American mass media has to do, is to unplug their bananas from their ears, open up their eyes, and they can see it. But in reality, the main emphasis of the KGB is not in the area of intelligence at all. According to my opinion and opinion of many defectors of my caliber, only about 15% of time, money, and manpower is spent on espionage as such. The other 85% is a slow process which we call either ideological subversion or active measures, активные мероприятия in the language of the KGB, or psychological warfare. What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process which goes very slow, and it's divided in 4 basic stages.
Mr. Bezmanov then goes on to describe ideological subversion in some detail.
The first one being demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Why that many years? Because this is the minimum number of years which requires to educate one generation of students in the country of your enemy, exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism. The result you can see. Most of the people who graduated in the 60s, dropouts or half-baked intellectuals, are now occupying the positions of power in the government, civil service, business, mass media, educational system. You are stuck with them. You cannot get rid of them. They are contaminated. They are programmed to think and react to certain stimuli in a certain pattern. You cannot change their mind, even if you expose them to authentic information, even if you prove that white is white and black is black. You still cannot change the basic perception and the logic of behavior. In other words, these people, the process of demoralization is complete and irreversible.
In 1960, then First Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Nikita Khrushchev, spoke at the United Nations, stating that communism would outlast the United States. While the 1990s made it look like Mr. Khrushchev was wrong, it seems the KGB's plans may have won in the long run. See, today, we have people who refuse to believe video evidence of the atrocities committed by Hamas against civilians in Israel. Others continue to line up to get vaccinated in the face of evidence that these vaccines are neither effective nor very safe. As Mr. Bezmanov describes, there's more to come.
Unlike in present United States, there will be no place for dissent in future Marxist-Leninist America. Here you can get popular like Daniel Ellsberg and filthy rich like Jane Fonda for being dissident, for criticizing your Pentagon. In future, these people will be simply squashed like cockroaches. Nobody is going to pay them nothing for their beautiful, noble ideas of equality. This they don't understand, and it will be greatest shock for them, of course.
Today, we have not only governments, but private actors censoring information they don't like. Cancel culture attempts to punish individuals and businesses for expressing ideas contrary to the agenda of the apparatchik. In short, as Mr. Bezmanov describes, this phase of the demoralization of America was completed even before his 1984 interview, and we have taken it far, far beyond what the KGB had hoped.
The demoralization process in the United States is basically completed already. For the last 25 years, actually it's overfulfilled, because demoralization now reaches such areas where previously not even Comrade Andropov and all his experts would even dream of such a tremendous success. Most of it is done by Americans to Americans, thanks to lack of moral standards. As I mentioned before, exposure to true information does not matter anymore. A person who was demoralized is unable to assess true information. The facts tell nothing to him. Even if I shower him with information, with authentic proof, with documents, with pictures, even if I take him by force to the Soviet Union and show him concentration camp, he will refuse to believe it until he is going to receive a kick in his fat bottom. When a military boot crashes then he will understand, but not before that. That's the tragic of the situation of demoralization. So basically America is stuck with demoralization, and unless Even if you start right now, here, this minute, you start educating new generation of Americans, it will still take you 15 to 20 years to turn the tide of ideological perception of reality back to normalcy and patriotism.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was 39 years ago. We could have turned the demoralization around twice, yet the American people were unwilling to do so. Rather, we have let the American education system poison the minds of several generations with little, if any, challenge. We stood by while the federal government illegally meddled in our education system, making things worse. The KGB may have started this process, but ultimately, we've done it to ourselves.
The next stage is destabilization. This time, subverter does not care about your ideas and the patterns of your consumption. Whether you eat junk food and get fat and flabby, it doesn't matter anymore. This time, and it takes only from 2 to 5 years to destabilize a nation, what matters is essentials: economy, foreign relations, defense systems. And you can see it quite clearly that in some areas, in such sensitive areas as defense and economy, the influence of Marxist-Leninist ideas in the United States is absolutely fantastic. I could never believe it 14 years ago when I landed in this part of the world that the process will go that fast.
Have you seen how the collectivist ideas have taken over our businesses, foreign relations, and defense? Businesses are being forced to hire people based on the color of their skin rather than their skills. Under Obama, we turned our backs on two of our staunchest allies, the United Kingdom and Israel, in order to support China and Iran. The Defense Department not only has placed the climate change agenda above national defense, but the transgender, racial, and sexualization agendas as well.
The next stage, of course, is crisis. It may take only up to 6 weeks to bring a country to the verge of crisis. You can see it in Central America now. And after crisis, with a violent change of power, structure, and economy, you have so-called the period of normalization. It may last indefinitely. Normalization is a cynical expression borrowed from Soviet propaganda. When the Soviet tanks moved into Czechoslovakia in '68, Comrade Brezhnev said, "Now the situation in brotherly Czechoslovakia is normalized." This is what will happen in the United States if you allow all these schmucks to bring the country to crisis, to promise people all kind of goodies and the paradise on earth, to destabilize your economy, to eliminate the principle of free market competition, and to put a big brother government in Washington, D.C.
How many crises have we had since 1984? The first and second Gulf Wars, 9/11, the Afghanistan War, the dot-com bust, the housing crisis, and I'm sure there are more. Then we have the self-inflicted crises, the Patriot Act, the surveillance state, COVID, the 2020 election, and the January 6th incarcerations. Now we're told that these are normal?
The time bomb is ticking. With every second, the disaster is coming closer and closer. Unlike myself, you will have nowhere to defect to, unless you want to live in Antarctica with penguins. This is it. This is the last country of freedom and possibility.
This time bomb Mr. Bezmanov has been talking about has been ticking for almost 4 decades. That is 4 decades of propaganda being pumped into the minds of the rising generations. 4 decades of people being told the lie is the truth. 4 decades of opportunities to restore not only the Constitution, but the American way of life lost. Where does that leave us? What can we do?
Well, the immediate thing that comes to my mind is, of course, there must be a very strong national effort to educate people in the spirit of real patriotism, number one. Number two, to explain them the real danger of socialist, communist, whatever, welfare state, big brother government. If people will fail to grasp the impending danger of that development, nothing ever can help United States. You may kiss goodbye to your freedom, including freedoms to homosexuals, to prison inmate. All this freedom will vanish, evaporate in 5 seconds, including your precious lives.
Step one must be an effort to educate the people. As John Jay put it, to teach the rising generation to be free. We need to teach the spirit of real patriotism and the dangers of all collectivist systems, including communism. If we fail at this, then we can wave goodbye to our freedoms. There's a problem, though. In most aspects, it's the government actors who have been leading this country to destruction.
The second thing, the moment at least part of the United States population is convinced that the danger is real, they have to force their government. And I'm not talking about sending letters, signing petitions, and all this beautiful, noble activity. I'm talking about forcing United States government to stop aiding communism. Because there is no other problem more burning and urgent than to stop the Soviet military-industrial complex from destroying whatever is left of the free world.
If we the people wish to remain free, it's up to us to force the government to stop aiding the collectivists. I don't mean denying their rights, but stop aiding and abetting those who are trying to destroy this country. Stop federal funding of education. Stop subsidizing the collectivist agenda, not by writing letters or signing petitions, but by making the politicians more afraid of disappointing the American people than their donors and political parties. Now, Daniel Webster was correct when he wrote, "Make them intelligent, and they will be vigilant. Give them the means of detecting the wrong, and they will apply the remedy." Well, Mr. Bezmanov is right about many things. The one thing I think he missed is the how. How do we force governments to stop supporting collectivists and start honoring their oath of office to support the Constitution? How do we educate the people in the spirit of real patriotism? We can't expect the same government that is promoting collectivism to teach our children the spirit of liberty. That job falls to us. Actually, that job was always ours. We've just been convinced to turn it over to government. Now it's time to take it back. Will we learn the lesson Yuri Bezmanov tried to teach us back in 1984? Do we still have time to save the Republic? Whether we've passed the point of no return or not, what is our alternative? Do we simply give up and drown in the tyranny of others, or fight for every breath of freedom we can? 4 decades. 4 decades of time lost. 4 decades of refusing to learn the lessons that were right in front of us. I'm sure you're ready to just throw up your hands and, the last person out, turn off the lights. It's over. But it doesn't have to be. So I'm convinced by my own experience that even as this nation is still heading towards tyranny, we can live free. But the choice has to be ours. We have to decide we're going to live free. We have to recognize the limits of governmental power and simply refuse to comply when they go beyond that. Well, then we need to learn to elect representatives who understand that as well and are willing to have the bravery, the backbone to stand up and say, no, we didn't say you could do that. Legally, you can't do that. We will not comply. Seems scary, doesn't it? Yeah, it is. Until you realize what's your alternative. If you haven't seen it, go back, watch some of the videos, some of the stories about the Soviet Union in the 1970s and 80s. Or look at China under Mao. Look at Cambodia under Pol Pot. That's our future. If you don't believe me, compare what was happening then to what is happening now. And the parallels should scare the pants off of you. As I said, even if the country's going to go down, let's fight for every breath of liberty we can get. The good thing is we aren't dependent on other people to do that for us. Now, we can help you learn to do that. That's what the Constitution Study does. Help you learn what your rights are and prepare yourself to defend and assert them. You find out more at the website, constitutionstudy.com. I really hope you'll consider the Patriots Program. It's an invitation-only program that's designed not to replace what you're doing, but to give you tools and resources to do things better, faster, quicker. Find out more at constitutionstudy.com/patriots. Even if you're not interested in that, maybe you'll just support the work that we're doing. Maybe you'll spread the word. Maybe you'll sign up for a mailing list. Hey, maybe you'll even buy a couple books, maybe donate to the cause. Every dollar you donate here goes to keeping the Constitution Study running. It takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of money, and we can use all the help we can get. So if you like this work, if you like the content I'm producing, consider supporting us. Support the work that we're doing. We're not using third-party apps to do this. Just go to constitutionstudy.com/shop. You'll see a donate option. You can donate one time. You can make a monthly donation, an annual donation. But when you donate, that helps offset the costs of the software and the equipment we need to keep doing this content. And if you have something you'd like me to do or a question you'd like to ask, you can always ask a question on the website as well. What I want to do is help arm you to defend your own liberty, your own freedom. I want to help you live free. If you want to help others do so as well, well, support the work that we're doing here. But if you can't support us, hey, maybe you'll just come back and join us here next time for the Constitution Study.